All right, guys, now you know the difference between a mortgage specialist and a mortgage broker. When would you choose one over the other? Now, a mortgage specialist has direct access to an underwriter, right? So like, for example, if you feel like your deal is going to have some challenges to it, a mortgage specialist can actually appeal your file directly with the underwriter, take a couple levels up, for example, take it to the underwriter manager if you feel strongly in the deal. On the other case, vice versa, a broker usually gets a decline and then they have to move on to the next lender to see who has an appetite for your deal. Right, so it could take longer, it could take a couple of different stops before that deal gets approved or maybe not approved at all, right? And in a certain scenario also, mortgage specialists have access to certain products that brokers don't, right? Mortgage specialists have access to some things like home equity lines of credits, for example. They might have access to a mortgage plus line of credit. Some people call that like a flexible mortgage. Brokers don't have access to certain things like that. Mortgage specialists have access to, let's say, certain policies that maybe mortgage brokers don't, right? Some banks, keep in mind, only deal with mortgage specialists, which is their own sales team, right? Some banks refuse to deal with the broker altogether. Of the major five, I think maybe two are dealing with broker and the remaining three aren't. And that's a big chunk. So 3 of the 5 have their own sales team and then they want mortgages to be originated from there only and not coming from broker, right? So brokers are really good if you are trying to get a quick, getting like a really good rate. Nowadays, banks are just as competitive as brokers for rates, but brokers really operate in the gray area. If you have a very specific type of deal, your situation is not, let's say, I would call it clear cut. You have some challenges. A broker might be able to suit that mortgage and take it to a lender and say, this kind of fits more based on the policies that you know, right? A specialist, what I usually tell people, a specialist has to learn one bank's policies in and out, and a broker would have to learn maybe many, right? So 10 plus, know their policies in and out. So that's really the differences between a broker versus a specialist. Why would you choose one or the other? Depends on your scenario, right? Whatever your scenario is, speak to a specialist and a broker maybe and decide after speaking to both of them to see where it kind of fits or makes more sense for you. Definitely ask both of them about rates to see if the rates are very comparable. If not, obviously pick one that has the better rate. Promotions, right? Banks have promotions all the time that they give, whether it could be a little bit of an incentive that they want to give regarding cash or account opening or products that they want to throw in. So a lot of different. So you want to see what the best you can get, right, from either a broker or a lender. Now, questions you want to ask. So the questions you want to ask is one, turnaround time. How long does it take for me to get an approval with all the information that I can provide, right? That's definitely an important one. You also want to ask them, what kind of documentation do I need? That's a very important one. And you also want to talk about to see if a broker certainly works with certain builders, right? If you're looking for a brand new home. Now, most builders don't like to work with brokers. It's because usually when a builder is building a home for you, it takes a certain time period to build, right? So that means that approval needs to be in place or valid for a certain time period. So banks actually have access to that, right? Usually approvals can last anywhere between 12 months to 3 years, depending on the project and depending on the site. So banks will actually go and do a project approval with the builder. They will make sure everything is good to go. So once you're approved with the bank, you're approved from day one. So it doesn't really mean that later if situation will change, as long as everything is still okay, you're still approved. With a broker, their approval is usually good for about 4 months, right? So it means that every 4 months they have to do a new approval. That means going through a new application, it means going through a new credit check. That could be a problem for you. So if you're going with a builder, most builders will probably recommend that you deal with a bank. And at that time, you can ask them who they recommend, what kind of experience that they have had, and then kind of decide from there. But it really just depends on your scenario. Are you building? Are you buying? Is it a quick close? Is it going to take you a certain time to build that? A lot of different scenarios to kind of see when a specialist will make more sense for you or when a broker will make more sense for you, right?